I'm Mrs. Stuyvesant, this is Mrs. Gibbs, and we're going to talk to you today about phonics at Cheddar First School and what it looks like in your children's classrooms. We're going to talk a little bit about the new scheme, Little Wandle, and we're going to try and answer any questions that you've got. So please just feel free to use the chat if you'd like to, or wait until the end and you can unmic and ask some questions. But yeah, raise your hand if you've got anything as we go.
We might be flicking between our PowerPoint and we're going to come out to model some of the resources that we use and show you how we do writing as well. So there'll be a bit of teaching for you. So if you bear with me, I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. I just go back onto Teams. Can you just give me a high five or a wave if you can see yourselves on the screen here? Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. This works really well with children as well because they tell you when they can see you. OK, so I'm just going to go back onto my PowerPoint and we will get started.
OK, so to start off, just to say a quick quote about a love of reading is the biggest indicator of future academic success. It really is important to pull it back to us believing in that love of reading and getting children inspired to have reading with you at home, reading anything that they can. So how many times have you already read today? I think you'll be unaware of the amount of times actually we read throughout the day. It could be that we read, you know, documents, newspapers, just looking on your phone, even using Instagram, Facebook, social media. All of this involves us reading. We're looking on cooking instruction packets, bills. Again, it's everything around us involves us to read. So it's been highlighting that importance of every day giving those children exposure to reading because it's so fundamental in life.
Even when we're driving our car, walking down the street, we can see the street names. Everywhere you will see words and your children will surprise you when they start to read them as well. So phonics. At our school, we've chosen to do Little Wandle Letters and Sounds Revised as our systematic synthetic phonics programme to teach early reading and spelling. Now we've started it for quite a while now and we can already see the progress that has been made.
So phonics is making connections between the sounds of our spoken words and the letters that are used to write them down.
So here is a quick video. We will add this on to our website. So this is about blending words to read, and I will model that for you physically in a little while. I think it's just frozen. So this is the terminology that your children will come home with. You might be surprised when they come out with these huge words such as trigraph and digraph, but they really know what it means. So if I ask children what a digraph is in my class, they will say, oh, it's 2 letters, but 1 sound. A trigraph, they're very excited. They've learned some tricky trigraphs now. They're 3 letters that are 1 sound. The grapheme is what the sound looks like, so the letters that build that sound. The phoneme is its sound itself. When they get to year 1, they learn the tricky split vowel digraphs. Mrs. Sandevan, do you want to explain that?
Yeah, so the split vowel digraph is when the 2 letters have been split, and we say that there's a connection with the friendship. The 2 letters are joined as a friend and they make the sound, but there's a letter in between the sounds. So it's like a bridge with a letter in the middle. And when we're talking about reading, we're thinking about their blending and segmenting. So a lot of children, as they come into year 1, have started doing the segmenting and blending in their heads. In reception, they work really hard on segmenting all the sounds and blending. But as I said, as we get to year 1, hopefully they're starting to use that segmentation and blending in their head more and they can read a little bit more fluent.
OK, by using the Little Wanders letter and sounds, we have a specific teaching order that we start from the very first day of reception all the way through to the end of year 1 and into year 2 at the start of the year. So you can see the first week of reception, we would learn the S, the sound, the A, T and P. We learn 4 letters each week and 4 sounds each week, every week. And then we have some consolidation weeks as well to support that.
Now, gradually your child learns the entire alphabetic code. So there is a systematic approach to making sure that your children has exposure to every element of the phonics. Now, we are aware that every child doesn't follow that same way, and we know that we need to fill gaps sometimes. Children have missed a lot along the last 2 years, and we know that we may need to do some catch-up sessions. So this is the way that we will work it with reception as a whole class. However, we are also having those small group catch-up sessions to ensure children aren't missing key sounds and needing support with those new tricky words that they've had.
Or even blending if they're really struggling with that skill of blending those sounds together in order to read. So
how we make the learning stick. So with the sounds that we've got, just like we've had previously, you can have a letter that relates to a mnemonic or a picture. So children are now having exposure to all these new pictures. So A for astronaut. The children then understand that A relates to the astronaut. So when they're writing it in their books, they go back to that A astronaut, and you can use that to say to them, oh, remember. And then thinking about the sound for oi. Boing, boing. They're thinking about, oh, yes, I can remember, linking that to that picture and the sound that that picture makes.
From those as well, it also helps with our handwriting. And we're just going to show you some of the resources we have. So I'm just going to come off sharing my screen so that you can see us, and then we can show you some of those lovely resources that we've now got in class. So let me just stop sharing and make sure I'll just come off Spotlight and go into Spotlight again, because I know it can be a little bit tricky sometimes when we come out of sharing. Okay, can I just get hands up again? Sorry, everyone, if you can see us nice and big on your screen so we can show you. Brilliant. So when we start in reception, we start with single sounds. So we will start with sounds like this. So they will see this. But first, we show them the mnemonic. Oh, what can you see in this picture? You can see a flamingo. What sound does flamingo start with? Oh, a f sound. And then we would show them the sound, play lots of games with them to get them to remember. Oh, flamingo. We flashcard them. Oh, what sound is it? What's this? And then we try to trick them. I'm not very good at catching them out. They're pretty good at it. From this, we go on to our phase 3. So we've got some trigraphs here. They're very excited by the trigraphs. So we would build up words by putting one in front of the other. Okay, what have we got here? We've got a sound at the front and a sound at the end. Let's say it together. Air. Okay, let's blend it together. Air, fair. And we really focus on that pointing at each sound. And then to blend, we swipe underneath. They really enjoy that, and they've started to do that in their reading in school as well. From there, you can build up with more trigraphs or digraphs, lots of different words that we would teach them depending on the new sound. So if ear was our new sound, we would do lots and lots of blending with ear as our tricky trigraph. It could be fear, it could be here, it could be dear, lots of different words. As well as this, we have our small word clouds. I know you use these in year 1, don't you, Mrs. Standeven? So these are the sounds that we've been using this week to practice. So every session starts with a revisit, a practice of those sounds that they already know. So you just flashcard them a few times, and they love the shuffle time. I don't know about yours, but they love to have a little shuffle on the carpet as you shuffle them up to try again. Okay, so they would sound E. Oh, got them mixed up. Oo, O, I, A, and they know those sounds. We'd shuffle them up. If they're finding it a bit tricky, we'd get them to say it in different voices, in different ways. Can they go a bit faster the next shuffle? And we do that a few times.
Yeah, we're also aware that in year 1, they obviously haven't had the exposure from all the reception sounds. So initially in last year, they would have had these sounds and would have known those mnemonics, whereas they didn't have that. So in year 1, we are also exposing them to all these phase 2, phase 3 sounds, so that they are having them and knowing them, the new sounds, and they're actually getting very, very good. And sometimes we hide the sounds in the pack and they have to say it when they see it. And yeah, they are boing boinging because they are literally on their bottoms trying to jump up. But yes.
It really helps as well when we show you their
learning packs,
the sounds that they've got on there to help you at home as well. We've got them in class to support writing. So from our sounds, we do some reading as well. So each class has their own pack of special words, and in reception, we would be teaching the same words each day. Year 1, they would be teaching the same words each day. So every child is getting the same experience, the same exposure, the same routine. So you can see on one side, they've got the word, on the other side, they've got the sound buttons. And you can see that it's got dots under our single phonemes, our single graphemes. So a digraph here, can we blend it together? Farm. And the children are getting really, really confident in doing that, that at this point in reception, we're not even sounding them out with them. We're just pointing to the sounds they're sounding, then they're blending.
Yeah, and then into year one, we're trying to get them to move away from that sounding out and blending so we can hear it, and they're doing it in their heads. They're thinking about segmenting and blending, and then they're saying the word straight away.
They're a brilliant resource, and their children are really confident at using them as well to support them. So when we're teaching a new word, we would use the same cards, but obviously ones that they haven't experienced yet. So we would say, oh, can we spot a digraph in this word? And the children are confident in saying, oh, I can see a digraph. It's the R digraph. And then keep building on those words as we go. And we'll go through lots and lots of words that have the new sound each day. From those, we also revisit our tricky words. Now, tricky words are those words that we can't sound out. They have a different tricky rule. So Mrs. Sandevan is modelling a tricky word here.
Yeah, so here we've got the word he. We would show the word he and we'd say, well, what's the tricky part of the word he? If I sound out the word, it's h-ah. Oh, that doesn't make sense, does it? So we talk about with the children, where's the tricky part? Oh, it's because the F sound is making an E sound. You've got the E letter here. That doesn't make sense. So we talk about it, have a chat with the children, and they start to identify those tricky parts. So when they see the word again, they then will be able to know, oh, yeah, that doesn't quite make that sound. That's a tricky word. And just like with the other sounds we do, shuffle time, we'll go through the sounds. What's this word? We. What's this word? He. What's this word? Of. And then we keep doing it, children getting quick exposure, getting a bit faster, shuffle time. Maybe I'll hide one of the words and I have to say you have to put your hand up or stand up when you see the word. Just lots of active games for the children to be able to remember and say, oh yeah, I remember doing that activity. Yes, that's that word.
And the great thing is, the more we practice in school, the more they see an exposure, the more they're exposed to these tricky sound changes, these tricky words. They will pick up another word and they'll be like, oh, that doesn't make sense. I know it might be my tricky E. She. I can read that word myself. So they start to apply it independently in school as well. So that's all the resources that we've got that we use in our lessons. Let's have a look at what else we do in school. I'll just go back to my PowerPoint. So I'm just going to reshare everyone.
You want to go back on Spotlight?
No. Okay, can I just have another wave if you can see my screen? Hopefully you all can. You should be able to see lots of people's names at the front. Thank you. Well done, everyone. I feel like you all need some star points with all this helping. So I'm going to go back into our PowerPoint now. Here we go. So that was our resources. So reading and spelling. So here is an example of some of the sounds that you might learn in year one. So when they go into year one, they know the sound in one specific way. So we will teach the E sound, the double E digraph. When they get to year one, they learn the alternatives.
Yeah, so for the head, as people are looking at the moment, I know some spellings are coming home and the parents are saying, oh, but that doesn't quite sound right. That's not the sound that we used to learn. So when we've got head, it is the E sound, but we don't say h-eed, heed. It's the E sound. So it goes h-e-d. So they're learning those alternate sounds for those same phonemes that we've learned previously. Again, we've got break. It's not E, it's A. It's a very tricky language, I know, but they're learning all these spellings and all these different alternative sounds for those spellings.
And that's the great thing. In reception, they get the concept of they have to listen to those sounds and write down the sounds that they know. So then when they get to year one, they have confidence with the sounds that we originally teach them in phase 2 and phase 3, that then they can start to apply the different tricky spelling rules. Lovely English language. So here are some examples of all the different ways you can write the phoneme for sh. Okay, so the sh sound for shell is the SH digraph, but the phoneme for chef is the CH digraph. The phoneme in special is CI, and you can see the TI, the SI, the double SI all make the sh sound.
Yeah, and the children are really getting really good, and on all the classes that you'll find when you walk into year 1 or into reception, you'll find something called Grow the Code, and this is where the code becomes a bit of a they're trying to do investigation between what sound is it that I'm going to need to use for what spelling of that phoneme in my word, and children are identifying the code grows for these sounds. Year 1 particularly at the moment, because you haven't moved on to them, are identifying and going, oh, there it is. It's on the Grow the Code. I can see it underneath. It's underneath the O, because we're still having our O sound, but it's spelt differently. So if your child is mentioning Grow the Code, this is what we're talking about, is when we're talking about the alternate spellings of the same phoneme.
Okay, there are tricky word videos as well, and we've gone through the tricky words. Those are those words that we can't sound out. You just have to learn, and it's teaching them what parts are tricky in those words. And when we show the home learning packs, we'll be sending out those tricky words as well. We will pop the links to these videos on. Okay, so we're going to move on to spelling now. This is my favourite part of reception, I think. So it's teaching children how to spell. So how they say the word. Okay, we've got the word sat. Okay, let's segment the sounds. Okay, s, a, t. Count those sounds. How many have you got? 1, 2, 3. I've got 3 sounds. Let's write them down, making sure the children remember that they've got 3 sounds and they have to have all those sounds at the end of their word. So they'd write them down in order. It takes a lot of practice, but they do get there, and I can see so much progress in reception already, and I'm sure there is lots of progress with the new alternatives in year 1 as well. So we're just going to model it to you. So I'm just going to come off the screen again. Apologies for all the flipping between. But it just really helps that we show you physically what we do so you can have a go at home. So I'll just spotlight for everyone, and we're just going to move the board slightly so that you can see our lovely whiteboard that we prepared. Okay, so in reception today, we are going to write the word sing. What sounds can you hear in sing, Mrs. Standeven?
Sing.
Well done. Can you write it on the board for me?
Sing.
Well done. So as you can see, Mrs. Standeven's used her lovely cursive writing as well, which they learn in year 1. In reception, we're just focusing on those normal letters, but it's absolutely fine if they come home and they start practicing different formations at the moment. So as you can see, Mrs. Standeven used her segmenting fingers. I'm sorry you can't see my face, but every sound she put up a finger for her segmenting fingers so she could count them. Okay, Mrs. Standeven, I've got a trickier one for you. Can you write the word fear?
Fear. F-ear. Fear. F-ear. F-ear.
Brilliant. And as teachers, we put the sound buttons on to really over-represent the single sounds, the digraphs and the trigraphs so that the children really recognise them more as they do their writing.
We like to try and model it as much as possible so that the children can see our thinking behind it. So when I'm thinking about how I would do it, this is how I want the children to replicate it. So I'm really conscious that I want to over-model so that when the children are writing it themselves, they can see exactly what I'm doing, and then they can apply that to them, what they're doing.
With the word fear, in reception, they might find that a little bit tricky because sometimes they miss the trigraph. So they might say E-er. So they might hear 3 sounds. It's just about over-modelling and reminding them, oh, it's actually a tricky trigraph on the end. What tricky trigraph do you think that could be? And it does come with practice and repetition. But I've already seen this week that they have been fantastic with their writing, and I hope they're practicing at home as well. So we'll go back to PowerPoint now. Thank you. It's been a while since I've used Teams. Okay, can we just have another quick wave just so we can see that everyone can see us, see the screen? Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so we'll go on.
Okay, so how do we teach reading in books? So in reception and year 1, we have guided reading practice sessions. These sessions are timetabled for 3 times a week. They are taught by a trained teacher or teaching assistant, and they are taught in small groups. Now, these groups are different phases. They are looked upon at the children's needs and their phonic ability. These books that we use are the books that are then coming home the next week for you to explore and have with your children and identify things, and they can talk about and have that confidence because they've already explored it for 3 sessions with yourselves. Now, the sessions have 3 different elements to them. First of all, the children will look at, do we have a leave list? Oh, okay, sorry. So you use assessment to match your child the right level of book. So we use the assessments from Little Wandle, which are done on a termly basis or as and when necessary. If a children feels like when they're reading they have overconfidence, we can use it to assess them to identify whether they need moving up. And again, if a child's struggling, maybe there's something happening, or maybe the level is just not quite right for them, we again can assess them to see that the book is suited for the right level of that child. This means that your child should know all the sounds and tricky words in their phonics book well. Read many of the words by silent blending in their head. Their reading will be automatic. Only need to stop and sound out about 5% of the words by the time they bring the book home. But they should be able to do this on their own. So it's really important to know that although your child may seem like they're feeling very confident and quite fluent with the book, we want them to build this confidence. We want them to be able to segment and blend 95% of those words. There only should be about 5% of those words are tricky. It's really about increasing that confidence, that book talk, that understanding, and giving them the opportunity to feel like they can read the book without having difficulties. I think what we sometimes, as parents, I know I do as well, I can sometimes think, oh, my child's reading this really, really well, they just need to have another book. But actually, when I stop and ask my daughter questions and say, well, what happened before this? Or what do you think is going to happen next? Actually, we create a lot more time spent on the books, and she actually is deepening her understanding of the words and meaning of them. So again, they may seem easy, but it's because we really want the children to understand and enjoy reading. We want them to have that pleasure and be proud of themselves that they've been able to successfully read through an entire book and be able to talk about what happened.
And for children to come home and be able to read that book fluently to their mum and dad is just an amazing feeling for them. If they come home and they're finding it a bit tricky, some of the words they're not used to, some of the words might be tricky words they've not engaged with, they're not going to feel as confident and they're not going to grow as quickly. Now, we say 95% because they've practiced it 3 times during the week already. And when we do our guided reading, we split that up into 3 parts. So our first part is focusing on reading the text, so reading the words, blending, segmenting, and we go around and we support and listen to each child read every day doing that, all the 3 sessions, sorry.
Yeah, and that's the decoding. So when we're really aware that the children need to understand what sounds are going to be within the book, and at the front of the book we use, just like you would, all the words that are all the sounds that are in the book. We use flashcards, and the children are seeing the flashcards. The children then have exposure to the tricky words that are in the book. They then also have the words that they may not know. So there's a vocabulary section. So we're really exploring that first initial that's in the book cover, all those words that they're going to meet, so that they are already building an understanding of that book. And we may not even get onto reading the book, because actually it's all about understanding and getting them ready to explore this book. We then move into our second session, which again could be on Tuesday, or it's subject to your classes. It could be a Wednesday session in a different class. That is built around prosody, and that's about using the voice, your expression, your intonation, to be able to read the book with a enjoyable amount. So we're getting the children to read independently, getting them to read to one another. They may be experiencing the teacher being reading to them to model how they might say it. For example, if there was somebody saying, no, don't run, rather than the child reading, no, don't run, we would over-express going, no, don't run, because we want to try and create that imagery for the children of the picture that's happening, link it to the story, and getting them enthusiastic and inspired to read on.
it's about understanding what a book entails as well. So when they look in their book, they know what an exclamation mark is, and even reception are excited because the exclamation mark means you need to say it in an excited voice. They know that a speech bubble is someone talking. That's a character. We get to give it a funny voice. Oh my goodness, we got to read as mice yesterday. We get to read in our fairy voices, our dinosaur voices, and just giving them more enjoyment and more enthusiasm for when they read. And I've even spotted children starting to read in a different voice in their free flow in the classroom as well, which is lovely to see.
And then our final session is our comprehension, and that's where we're asking children about the books, getting them to look back at the pictures, using that last page on the back of the book that gives a little bit of a synopsis of pictures about what's happened, and getting them to think about, did they understand what they've just read? Did they read the book and read the words for meaning, or were they reading the words just as words? So that's that comprehension section, and us modelling to them, okay, how could we use the pictures to go back to thinking about that question, and just getting them to really understand what they've read.
There's a really good phrase where a child might be able to read all about shark-infested waters, but then at the end of the story, they said, oh, I'd go swimming in those waters. They haven't understood what they've read. Even though they've read it fluently, they're not understanding that water is filled with sharks. They'd still go swimming in it. So it's just really understanding what they've read is really important. So in most classes, we have started to use precision teaching. We use this to inform to use our term assessments to inform our planning. So from these assessments, we will know exactly which children need to support them and the sounds that they're finding tricky. From this, we're then able to put in place quick daily flashcards with a teaching assistant to practice those sounds. It also informs us quickly what capture groups need to be in place to support blending or segmenting. And then by using continual assessment, we endeavour to ensure that no child is left behind and all relevant support is in place. So that means, for example, in reception, if someone is finding 4 sounds a little bit tricky, they'll practice those 4 sounds with some of our teaching assistants in school every day. It's just a 2-minute job. They just do the flashcards and you can see how quick the progress is. And we monitor that every day and we can see where the progress is made.
Okay. So reading at home, I think just quickly we could show you the actual books that are coming home. So if we just come out of our screen and have a look, so I'm sure you already have seen, I know I'll talk whilst you're finding. You've already seen the books that are coming home. You've already had exposure to the new books that we've got. They're all lovely and shiny, but they look a little bit different because they have no longer got the colours on the book bands. So originally your child may have been yellow, or they may have been pink, or they may have been blue. Now we are covering phases instead. So this is a phase 2 book. It's got it there on there. That links to the phonic knowledge. So these are the phase 2 sounds. Your child's working at phase 2 sounds at the moment. If it's phase 3, it'll be your phase 3 sounds. It's phase 4 sounds, and phase 5. So this is one of the books that your child may bring home. What I was referring to before was, if we go over to the first initial page, this is the sort of setup that we have also with reading in school. So we have our practicing phonics. So we're going to read the book 3 times over 3 guided reading sessions. These are the sounds that we're going to focus on initially. And we have little cards that Mrs. Gibbs is just going to show. We read the words. So we use our phonics here with the children to say, what's these words? Can we sound talk them? Can we segment and blend these words? Yeah, these are the words that are going to be in the story. Oh, who do you think Tom is? And we use the vocabulary words then to already give the children an understanding of what these words mean. If a child doesn't understand what the word naps means, when it comes into a sentence, they're not going to understand the sentence because they're missing that understanding of naps. So we talk to the children about, oh, what might be a naps? Oh, what do you think? And someone might say, oh, it might be when a dog is nappy. Oh, no, that's a good thought. I like that thinking, that's quite right. But this one, naps, is referring to when you have a little sleep, your little snooze. So we explore all of this here, which you can also use at home. You could also talk about, oh, can you remind me, what does that word nips have? What is this word? Naps. Can you remind me about it? Can you talk to me about it? So we look at all of this section and we explore all of this. And then it isn't until we feel that they're confident in the second session where we start reading with them. We start saying, okay, can you explore it? First bit of the page. Okay, can you read that to me? Can you segment and blend? what can you see is happening in this story? Oh, look, have you got a bunny? And we really explore the book and try and get them to link the text to the pictures, get them to think about, oh, what's going to happen next? What animal do you think is going to be next? And then they can talk about all the things that they can see.
I was just going to say there is a focus on reading the words first before looking at the pictures, just because we don't want them to guess what the words are. We want them to use the skills of blending.
And then once they've successfully read through the book as a group, we then will go back to the previous end page here, and we'll get them to talk about what they've read in the story. And we're using this page for their comprehension skills, thinking about asking those questions that are actually on the back of here. So on page, which one's this, 14 and 15 here, what rabbits can you see? What rabbits did you like? What rabbit would you like if you could choose a rabbit, and why? And that's getting them to really think about their responses and their questions to the text. Hopefully that's helpful.
I've really enjoyed it in school, and the kids are absolutely fascinated. They love coming in and knowing more of their flashcards each day, being able to read by the second of the day some of the words fluently, and they're like, I could read that without blending, and it's just lovely. And the fact that they're going to come home and be able to read that to you and show their fantastic reading is just, it's brilliant.
We've definitely seen it in year one. We've definitely got having those smaller guided groups and being able to read with every single child and have them to be able to really speak to me, and they're wanting it. They're going, oh, me next, can I have another go? Can I read the next page? And I say, right, let's get round everybody. And then we do some whole class and we all read together in our little group. Has been really beneficial, and they've just loved having that independent application of them reading just for enjoyment.
And I find with ours, we only have groups of 5 at the moment, so it's really lovely, because even those children that are a little bit unconfident in talking in a whole class situation, you're getting so much more language and conversation from them because you're in such a smaller group, and it's definitely working for their oracy and their reading skills. So I'm just going to share back onto my screen. Sorry again if I just asked for a big wave. I think it's working okay now, so
I think so.
That's brilliant. We'll just carry on. Is someone shout out if you can't see us? Okay, so reading at home.
So the most important thing you can do is read with your child. Reading a book and chatting had a positive impact a year later on children's ability to understand words and sentences, use a wide range of vocabulary, develop listening comprehension skills, and the amount of books children were exposed to by age of 6 was a positive predictor of their reading ability 2 years later. So what will we be sending home? Well, we'll be sending home one of our new Collins Big Cat books, which links to our guided reading sessions. This is the book that they've been exploring for that week. So the book that they've had this week will be coming home to you. You can then explore that for the whole of the week, and then that can come back to us. That will then be changed for the next book. However, we've also added in reading for pleasure books. These reading for pleasure books are books that are not 95% decodable. They're not books that your child may be able to read fluently, but they are books that your child has chosen to explore with yourself. So you may decide that you feel that your child can have a little bit of a challenge with it. You might like to do some echo reading with your child with the book. You might like to read a couple of the sentences and your child could echo them back. Again, it's then building up that fluency, it's building up that intonation, and it's building that reading to inspire. However, you might decide, actually, this book's pitched a little bit high, but your child really enjoys the book. So you're just going to read it with them, and you're going to get them to have a little look at the pictures and have that time with you to explore a nice quality text with your child.
And as a school, we've had a big discussion about what books we're going to be sending home. And we know that you're used to having a lot more books than we can send out physically at the moment with our little Wandle scheme. So what we're going to do is we're going to have reading for pleasure boxes, and this might include some of the books that they used to be exposed to previously, but these books are not 90% decodable. So we are counting these as our reading for pleasure books. So they will be in baskets that the children can change at any time, and it could be a range of levels that the children will cover within that year group. So in reception, we might go from our purple books all the way up to yellow or blue,
Yeah.
And then in year 1,
they can go from all the way down from pink, all the way up to, could be orange, could be further afield if we need to, but they've got that selection that they can go into, and they may pick a too challenging book, they may pick a too easy book, but as Mrs. Gibbs has mentioned, if it is too easy and it is too hard, and you think, oh, okay, we explored that in one night, actually, we don't want to have it again, then you're more than welcome to send your child in and say, can I swap that book today? Can I change my reading for pleasure book? Yes, you definitely can, because we want to inspire children to feel like that they can read whenever and, you know, have that opportunity to read a variety of books. However, we can only offer the one Collins Big Cat book once a week. So we are, you know, wanting to give, we might give 2 reading for pleasure books so that they have exposure to 2 in a week. And it's about giving those children that independence of changing their book when they want to. Those books for reading for pleasure will not be recorded in their reading record books. We will only be recording when we send home the guided reading books. And we encourage you to read that guiding reading book at least 3 times to 4 times if you can at home, and read those other books alongside them as well. And try and encourage your child to read independently. That book should be able to be read by them independently to you, or to, you know, brothers, sisters, aunties, uncles, anybody that's within your family, to encourage them to have that confidence to read.
So listening to your child read their phonics book. So your child should be able to read their book without your help. So they should be able to do it, even though they might tell you that they can't read it. If they can't read a word, you can read it to them. You can even break it down, segment it, so that you can read it to them. Talk about the book and celebrate the successes. Talk about, oh my goodness, you did an amazing job today. I know you found the tricky word there a little bit tricky today, but by the end of the story, you could recognise it by yourself. Maybe we'll practice it again tomorrow. You found the word tricky yesterday, but today you got it. It's just all about praising those children, because the more we praise them, the more happy they will be, the more excited they will be about reading with you.
So we know that obviously phonics sometimes is something that maybe adults haven't learned. I know when I was at school, phonics was never a thing, and I was never taught phonics in school. So when I came to learning phonics to be a teacher, it took me a little while to understand the sounds that represented each letter. So we know that we want to support you as much as possible. And what we've done is we put videos that were from Little Wonder onto our website. So in a moment we will share these with you. But what these are there for you to do is to go onto a YouTube video. There's phase 2 and there's phase 3 sounds that are taught in reception in autumn 1, autumn 2 and spring 1. These will also cover some of the sounds that are taught again in year 1 as review sounds, and there will be some sounds that your children are going to take home if they're working currently at a phase 3 book. These are videos of the child that you can see in the pictures. They are saying all the sounds, so you can hear those sounds and how they're said, because sometimes, you know, some sound that you thought may have been for unicorn, maybe an actually it's a U. So sometimes there's quite tricky sounds in there. So we've given them supporting videos for you to use as and when you need.
So they are directly on our website, and we will show you those next time we come off, so we can go through.
So as mentioned, with the Reading for Pleasure book, it is for you to read. Again, your child is more than welcome to read it. You know, you don't have to feel that you have to read it. Your child can read it to you if you'd like to, or if they feel confident in it, or you can read it. You know, you can talk with your child as much as you can about new and exciting language. If there's a book that they're really interested about dinosaurs, you know, ask them to get a dinosaur book from the library. Can we explore this together? Encourage your child to use new vocabulary, make up sentences together, find different words to use, describe things you can see. It's all about giving them that opportunity just to have a bit of you time and being able to explore a nice text and have that time to read. So hopefully they can continue reading that throughout their academic. Yeah.
And linking to the finding different words to use, it could be simple words like said. Oh, said's quite a boring word. How else could we say a word? Oh, we could whisper. We could shout it. We could use an angry voice, could be grumpily said, and use those different ways of talking and use those different words as well. One of the greatest gifts adults can give is to read to children, and that's definitely something that we cherish in this school. Is we love to read to our children, whether it's an end of day story, a snack time story, a story whenever we can get it in.
Yeah.
And is a lovely gift to read with them during guided reading, and we hope you enjoy reading with your children as well. So now we're just going to have a look at our home learning packs. So these are packs that we've made specifically for you to have the sound tiles where they're matched to the sounds that they're taught each week. So we will be sending home the 4 sounds. I know you've had some of these packs already. We're just going to keep going with them. They've got a sound on the back, the mnemonic on the front, and we'll quickly show you again in a second. Just make sure that they're being brought in each week as well, so we can keep adding to your packs as we learn new things. There'll be tricky word cards linking to the words that have already been covered. We won't send out anything that your child has not learnt yet. Like our books, we won't send out a phase that we've not covered yet because we haven't taught those skills yet in school. We've got a sound map. These cover the phases that your children will learn. So it could be phase 2 and phase 3 in reception. It could be phase 3 and phase 5 in year 1. There's treasury tags, so these are optional. They are used to bind tiles and cards together if you choose to do so. So we've got some children who put theirs on a treasury tag, some children who leave them floating in their packs. They got them quick and ready to make games with. So reception have started sending out examples of words with your children so that you can build them as you go. So you might not be aware when you first start using these with your children of what words you can use. So we have started to build those for you, and as you go into year 1, I think the children are quite independent and capable. But if you do need support with words that you could practice, please let us know and we can work to support you in that.
So phonics pack, some of the examples of activities that you could do. So sort of speedy sounds, flashing the cards at varying speeds so your child get used to seeing them. So again, you could quickly show the yeah, oh, what's this one? Quick, oh, what's this one? You could hide a sound inside of the pack and say, can you spot it for us? When you say that sound, can you do a special movement? Can you wave your arms? Can you pretend to put your hands, can you put your hands on your head? So when they see the sound that you're asking them to find, they do a particular movement or a particular thing. Reading words, spell a word for your child. For example, k. Can they sound it out and read it? Can they then make the word with their sound tiles? So can they find d? Can they find can they find k? You could play lots of different games. I'm sure there's things that you can think of as well. Word building, shuffle a small amount of sounds and spread out. Challenge your child to build the word. So again, here's all of our sounds on the table. I'm going to sound talk a word. Listen to the sound. Ink. Ooh, how many sounds did that have? Ik. Ooh, okay, that had 3 sounds. What's the first sound? Can you find that sound for me? Okay, what's the next sound? I. Can you find that sound for me? Let's start building our word. Ooh, the last sound, ink. Okay, let's find that. Can you build it for me? Can you do it for me? And as the children get more confident, you can just give them the word and then they can segment it themselves. So think, can you write the word think? Oh, well done. You can write that. Can you write the word plank? And things like that, and just keep going and just keep practicing with them. And then with the tricky words, again, you could do tricky word flashcards, so you could quickly flash them up. Children have to say them in a funny voice. Can you say it in a whisper voice? Can you shout it for me? Can they find the right one around the room? So hide it around the room. I'm going to put 4 tricky words around my front room. Can you see if you can find the word the? So they have to go off and find it. See how quick they can find all the 4 words. Can they spot the words amongst a group so you could put them all on the table? Quickest one to find them. Can you beat me? I'm going to challenge you to try and find the word before I find the word. You could also get them to do writing the tricky words in rainbow writing. You could get them to do it with chalk on a chalkboard. I'm going to give you the word said today. Can you write said in rainbow colours? Can you do it as a picture? So you could draw around the word said with pictures. So they are starting to see exposure of that word and you repeating that word to them and then making those links that said is said. Writing words, you use assignments to encourage children to write words on paper, whiteboards, chalkboards, or any other means of mark making. It could even be that it's on the floor, outside, in your garden, on chalk.
Yeah, they love writing chalk outside in the outdoor area. They get them out on the floor. They start writing the words that they've learnt that day, writing the sounds that they've learnt that day. It's just encouraging them and exposing them and just praising them for even having a go. It could be getting them to write a shopping list. If you need something from the shops, tell them what you need. Get them to have a go at writing it.
However, I do not recommend writing on walls.
No.
I've had a few children of mine writing on a wall, which isn't great.
But yeah, and if you get them to your shopping list, make sure you have a backup just in case. Okay, so we'll just come off because we've finished our PowerPoint now, and we will just share some of the bits that we have shared. Before I come off, I will just show you on the website. If you go into key information and curriculum, down at the bottom, you have all of our curriculum areas. So here is our phonics. If you click on phonics, it gives you all the information about teaching phonics in our school. Okay, so we've got our intent, our implementation, how we teach it, the impact it has, and at the bottom you can see the links to the videos that have the sounds there as well.
Yeah, and there's also how we have the grapheme. So if Mrs. Gibbs, if you just click on one, we've got the capital letter formation. So this is just something to give you a resource to how we say when we're using, like, say the letter A, we say from the top diagonally down to the left, up to the top diagonally down to the right. So just what we use when we're trying to get them to do those letters. Again, when we do the sounds, we've got our sound.
Oh, I've come completely out.
Dear.
Sorry.
We've got sound sheets on there. So when we're saying to the children, can you write the letter A? We say to them around the astronaut's head and down his helmet. So that's when we're thinking about the handwriting that they are doing.
And they loved handwriting, the letter M this week in reception.
Yes.
They went down, up, over the mouse's ears and under his nose with a flick. And the handwriting has come on so much just from using those handwriting rhymes as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing, and I'm just going to make sure that the spotlight is working. Can always be a little bit temperamental, and we'll just go through the little phonics pack so we can show you exactly what we mean. So everyone should have a pack. It might be yellow, it might be blue, but please let us know if you have not got one. Please ensure that you send us home at least at the end of every week so that we can fill in some more extra bits each week, considering what we've taught that week. So you will have your sound card. So this is what we use in school as well. We've got these in the classroom. The children love using them when we do our writing. So on one side, it's got all the phase 2 sounds that they will cover. So we have covered all of phase 2, and we've covered all of phase 3 now in reception, which is amazing. So it's got phase 3 on the back, and it has the tricky words for phase 2 and phase 3 as well. We haven't covered all of the tricky words. I think we have covered all the tricky words from this week. Sure and pure, pretty tricky. So it's got those as well that you can practice. As well as those, we've got our tricky word flashcards. Now reception, we are trying to catch up with all the tricky words because obviously we started Little Wonder a little bit later on. So we are trying to send out extra at the moment, but soon it will just be one pack a week. So we've got into so far, no, has, and you've got these. You can break them up, you can play games with them, flashcard them, just like Mrs. Stand even said. As well as those, we've got our sound tiles. Now this child has cut all hers up ready. So on one side, you have the sound. On the other side, you have the mnemonic. It just gives you a little bit of a helping hand. If they find this sound a little bit tricky, oh, you can't remember the sound. What's this picture? Oh, it's an iguana. What does iguana start with? Oh, an I. Well done. And you can build those words with the sound tiles. So I've got the I. I've got this sound. What does it make together? It. And they're all in there for you. And every week as we teach new sounds, we will add those in for you. Now, I think at the moment reception might have finished all our sounds. I'm not sure about you, Mrs. Sandy, if you were.
We're going on to alternate sounds. So
alternatives, so a little bit trickier. But I think that is...
Yeah, I think that's everything.
Yeah, I think that's everything. If anyone's got any questions, please let us know. We're here for a few more minutes just to answer.
And we can maybe take it off recording, and then if you want to unmic, we can have a bit of a conversation if that works for everybody. So if we just see if we can stop recording.
Yeah, I'll stop recording now, and then we will answer any questions that come up.